Hello, everyone. My name's Paul Stevens, editor of Short Term Rentals, and welcome to this Short Term Rentals webinar on Tech Conundrum, Early Adopter or Late to the Party in collaboration with Hopper Homes. I'm the host for today's session, editor of Short Term Rentals and part of our international hospitality media portfolio. And Hopper calls itself the world's fastest growing mobile first travel marketplace. Purpose of webinar guidelines for today, please keep your sound on mute and your camera off if you're not speaking. All of the details will be posted in the chat by my colleagues Joe and Danny, and please do post any questions you have there throughout for our panel today. Finally, a recording will be sent round to everyone after today's session. So let's introduce our speaker lineup for today, and we're going to kick off with Susan, please. Sorry, Susan, we're on mute there.
There we go. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan. I'm the head of Hopper Homes, joined Hopper a little over a year and a half ago, came to Hopper through an acquisition. Prior to that, I was the founder and CEO of a travel startup that I ran for 7 years.
Thank you very much, Susan. And next we have Luca, also from Hopper. Take it away, Luca.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Luca. I lead the supply team here at Hopper Homes. I joined roughly a year ago. I was at a bunch of startups before, including Hotel Tonight, which I expanded internationally until the acquisition from Airbnb. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Luca. Next up, we have Jesse from Frontdesk.
Hi, everybody. Jesse from Frontdesk, CEO and co-founder. Frontdesk is a urban property management company in the residential hospitality space. We serve about 15,000 guests every month across 35 markets in the US. And we just announced the exciting close of our Series B backed by JetBlue Ventures and a lot of other exciting investors. Previous to Frontdesk, I did hotel guest room automation technology for hotel brands, boutiques, and flags. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Jesse. And last but by no means least, we have Jay from Evolve.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Paul, for the invite to be on this panel. My name's Jay Whiteley. I'm the Senior Director of Distribution Performance as well as Performance Management here at Evolve. Just for those that are unfamiliar with Evolve, so Evolve's really trying to reimagine vacation rental, building a trusted hospitality brand through a decentralized property management model. So far, we've served over 9 million guests with an average review score of 4.7. So right now, we have over 25,000 properties in 750 different destinations, mostly across the United States. My role at Evolve, I'm really focused on 2 different teams. I have a team that has conversations with our owners around their performance-related questions and optimization. And then the team that we're talking about mostly here today is our distribution partnership team that's focused on our new and existing distro partners and how I've come to know Luca and Susan so well as well. So super excited to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Jay and to all of our panelists for today. So let's look at a little bit of context behind today's discussion before we properly get started. We covered Hopper Homes' launch back in January, and we also interviewed Susan shortly after that on our podcast. So we'll be exploring a little bit more about why they've expanded into this vertical very shortly. More recently, Evolve has become Hopper's largest direct vacation rental supplier and also raised $100 million in growth capital earlier this year, taking its total funding to $235 million. While, as Jesse said, Frontdesk recently received funding from JetBlue Ventures, and Jesse was recently named the company's CEO. So congratulations there to Jesse. So let's get the discussion for today kicked off. And Susan, so just to get things started, why did Hopper launch its Hopper Homes category?
For Hopper, everything really starts with the customer, right? We're constantly surveying our users. We're constantly testing products with our users and proposing things in the app where we see does the customer engage with this? Do they want to book it? What are they willing to pay? And so we've known since roughly 2016 that our customers prefer to stay in vacation homes over hotels, right? Our customers are younger, they're Gen Z, they're millennials. 70% of our customers who book within the app are 25 or under. So we really have a captive audience there that is twice as likely to stay in a home versus a hotel. So, the entrance into homes for us was really inevitable. And I'll let Luca talk a little bit more about this, but Hopper, given our strategy of becoming the sort of super app, super shopping mall for all things travel, and having really a Walmart-driven approach to making sure that we are lowering the cost of travel for our customers so that they can travel more often. And we'll get into this more later as we talk about our super app strategy. But essentially what we do is rather than spend that money on marketing, we would rather give that money back to our customers and put it back in their pocket so they can travel more frequently with us.
Fantastic. And I think it was your CEO, Frederick, speaking at the Skift Forum recently. And I'll just repeat that statistic there for the people listening in today. And it was that customers on mobile apps are twice as likely to book a home than a hotel. We'll delve a little bit more into some of those statistics, but I also want to touch on something that you've said, Susan, as well. So why is Hopper Homes such an interesting value proposition? It is a new entrant into the vacation rental sector. Why is it this interesting, unique value proposition for property managers? And how do you see yourselves doing something different to the other OTAs in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. Luca, why don't I turn it over to you since you've been leading most of these discussions with our partners?
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, that's a fair question. Obviously, being a busy space, there needs to be a differentiated value proposition, and we really feel that there is, and like we're validating this with like hundreds of property managers that have joined us already. I think the first point is what Susan was mentioning is like the customer we give access to. So Hopper gives access to two closed user groups. The first and main is the Hopper app, and that has been like the most downloaded travel app in the US in 2021. This is an incremental audience of about, I believe, 80 million downloads. Susan mentioned millennial, Gen Z type customers that shop last minute, risk tolerant, travel frequently. And we acquired this customer in a completely different way than most of the OTA. Before the whole macroeconomic downturn, we were TikTok largest advertiser, just to give you some context. And now we switched to, again, like more focusing on the engaging the existing customers that we have. And we also have a unique way to retain them once they're in the app. Again, a full travel ecosystem, lots to do to engage every day versus the 3 or 4 times a year that you need to book travel. The fun thing is that the interesting thing is that on top of that, we had an additional closed user group, which is the Capital One audience. That's a different demographic, right? We're looking at more mature customers, spending more, staying for longer, using points as well, which makes things interesting because it would change the use cases that potentially they look to book, longer stays, higher AOV, and this is like distribution that otherwise a property manager will not get. I think there was a study internally that we don't share very often, but like one of the main highlights was that I think almost a third of the bookings are incremental. The bookings coming from Hopper are incremental. So that itself is the point that we feel is resonating the most with property managers today, and is only the starting point. All the innovations that you see in the app today will be available at some point for the homes vertical as well. And I'm talking about our fintech innovation and tools to gain market share, which our hotel partners are already working on, talking about loot boxes, promotional events, dynamic rates, and a few more. So yeah, those are the main points. The result is that property manager hosts will be able to diversify their revenue from big OTAs, while at the same time engaging with a customer that is the customer of the future. Our thesis is that in 10 years, some of the customer from other platforms will be churning. And so we're the platform that allows partners to engage with the customer that will stay on for the next, few decades. Let's put it like that.
Thank you, Luca. And you mentioned kind of this younger clientele, and you're now seeing millennials or Gen Z. I mean, I'm just about a millennial myself. And this momentum we're starting to see carry through a generation. I'm kind of tying us in a little bit with a question we just had through from Samita Sood, and it says, which strata of society are you targeting through Hopper Homes? I'm relating this to my next question, because is this kind of the younger clientele, these types of demographics, is this what is distinguishing Hopper Homes, do you think, from the competition, essentially?
Susan, you want to take?
Yeah, so I think really, the benefit of Hopper as a channel is that we actually have two very captive audiences, and they sort of hedge each other depending on what's happening in the broader market, right? During the pandemic in 2020, despite COVID, we were able to double revenue because our younger clientele was more risk tolerant. They were still traveling when older customers did not feel safe traveling, right? And now, the fact that we have this younger clientele through the app audience, where we have 80 million downloads in the app, but at the same time, we also have the Capital One audience, where they have a 40 million cardholders, right? That is a much older customer, more traditional. So you really have both. And I think the other interesting thing here is, we're here to grow with our customers. We have a very loyal customer base. Our customers tend to just shop in our app, and we're really oftentimes the first place that a young traveler books travel, right? And we have that sticky customer. And you can kind of see how the Airbnb customer evolved over time, where back in 2007, 8, 9, it was, the height of, the like economic downturn with all the, mortgage-backed security, downfalls. And you had customers who were suddenly, willing to sleep on somebody's couch to save money on travel, right? And we've seen that customer grow up and evolve over time to where now, those older millennials are booking higher priced properties. They're traveling and staying, in vacation rentals for work for longer periods of time. And so that's really the benefit of this long-term strategy for Hopper, right? Is meeting our customers where they are today, but then continuing to grow with them over time.
Thank you very much, Susan. I know we're going to get into the stickiness of the customer, social commerce, fintech, all very soon. So much to discuss in today's session. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Let's move on to one of your partners as well. And Jay, with Evolve, we already mentioned that you've raised this $100 million in growth capital in February, I believe. This is serious money right now. You've got 25,000 plus vacation homes operating 750 plus markets. And you're someone as well, you're working with a team on the distribution side of things. When and why did you sign up for Hopper Homes? And what were the reasons essentially for doing this?
Yeah, it's interesting spot for us to kind of start. We started our distro team a couple years ago, and one thing we want to refine down to is like, what matters for us in a new distro partner or any of our distro partners. And we really created this framework where it's around incremental guests, incremental revenue, and the Evolve brand. So Luca kind of talked about this a little bit, and we've been talking about this incremental guest. I think Hopper does have that guest that is a little bit different out there. So for us, what we're looking for is where's this guest that would not find the Evolve listing otherwise? The next is the incremental revenue. So the length of stay, the ADR, the booking windows, where can we find something that is not filling our calendars that we have today for our properties? And the last one is the Evolve brand. So this goes to the review scores and the 9 million guests that we've hosted. Is like, it's so important to us that we can connect that stay and ensure that that guest, from the moment that they book throughout the process, are confident in the Evolve brand and the hospitality experience they're getting with one of our properties. So by putting those together, we asked a lot of questions. Luca and Susan can test this. We probably ask more questions than most people. But for us, it's about being on the cutting edge of where this is going, right? Like Hopper is definitely opening up new audiences that we think could be very interesting for Evolve. And it fits very well within the framework of those three things that we're looking for.
And you mentioned there about being on the cutting edge of things. And one of the purposes of being here today is we're getting the word out to more property managers, particularly in the States like yourself. So for the benefit of everyone tuning in today, could you explain to us a little bit how that agreement with Hopper came about and
Yeah.
sort of the details of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a long process. I think we met Susan last year at Burma. We've been talking to Luca for a long time. I've known Luca in past roles too, and for us, it's so much about the partnership, right? We have an entire team that's focused on having the conversations and working with the Hopper team of like, what do bookings look like for us? What matters to our guests? What matters for our homeowners? And working together through that, like we always are talking about that partnership. And what we really mean around the partnership is like we want to make sure that when we're working with any distributor, regardless of Hopper Homes or anyone else, it's really focused on how can we create mutual wins together. Can we work together to build a better product? And can we have the difficult conversations? And I think we've definitely done all those things through our partnership with Hopper and other distro partners. But it's so important to build that relationship because it is an ongoing thing, and especially as Luca and Susan pointed out, like it's definitely growing. And as they're growing, there's new things that come up. Making sure that we're rowing the boat the same direction versus trying to do things separately. So the agreement has definitely been evolving through through partnership, and something that we rooted the whole thing into, and we don't think we would have got to an agreement without such a close partnership with Hopper.
Thank you very much, Jay, and likewise, Jesse, with Frontdesk, you say you've just raised this $13 million. You're operating in urban markets across the states. So along the same lines, really, as Jay, what were the reasons for wanting to sign up with Hopper in the first place?
Yeah, thanks, Paul. For us, it was a no-brainer. You can't ignore the meteoric rise of Hopper lately, and there's a lot of channels out there, right? So they're not unique in being another channel to help property managers. Obviously, we've already touched on some of the big names like Airbnb. There's Booking.com, VRBO, Marriott Homes and Villas, and thousands of other channels. And you can't, as a property manager, you can't force every channel onto your platform. Your engineers would murder you if you ask for that. So it's really important to pick and choose which channels you have the most confidence in. If I ask my wife, do you know who Hopper Homes is, and she's not in travel, she knows who Hopper is, right? There's that brand recognition, that name recognition. If I bring any of the dozens of channels that come pitch to us to list our inventory, she has likely a 1% chance she's heard of any of those. So it was quite clear for us, as at Frontdesk, our mission is to unlock a dynamic lifestyle anytime, anywhere. And there's really an important piece to that where we focus on accessibility for the modern traveler, and we want to reach them wherever they're at. So if they would rather book with earn and redeem points with some of the major hotel brands, we want to be there. If they would rather redeem their carrots that they've earned through tapping in their gamified screen, we want to be there. And we think that Hopper Homes really understands the younger demographic that we intend to serve in a pretty impressive and meaningful way that, if we had to pick our horses to bet on, Hopper Homes is definitely one of the leading horses.
I'm sure we're going to be touching on Carrot Cash very soon as well. But and you mentioned some of the other OTAs you're working with. So how did your agreement with Hopper come about in the first place as well?
Yeah, so we have some friendly faces there from within the industry who approached us, and real trusted people that if they call, we answer. And after starting to understand what Hopper's going for here, we immediately started looking at how do we get this going. And for us, it's a lot of it is just ease of integration. We don't want to have to build out these custom integrations. If it's supported through one of our third-party channel managers, it's more seamless. And then on the agreement side, it's just something that's mutually beneficial, and OTA agreements are pretty standard these days. So once we got approached, it was a pretty aggressive path toward trying to figure out how to make this work.
Thank you very much, Jesse. And a couple of terms that we've heard already being discussed by all of our panelists there. And I want to also explore how Hopper is innovating, creating this unique purchasing experience that we're hearing more and more about. Particularly, we already heard about social commerce. So Susan, I want to turn to you as well. You were the person who brought up the fact that Hopper wants to be this. I think I quote the first travel super app of the West, and it's something that I believe has been popularized more in Asia. So could you tell us, what does this actually mean to you, this idea of a super app, and why do you think there is a product market fit among your particular customers?
Yeah, so when we talk about super apps, you're really talking about an app that you go to for multiple things, right? I think in the West, we have this idea of one app, one type of thing that you do within it. In Asia, it really is one type of app, and within that app, there's everything you can do within it, right? You can, order food in WeChat. You can book your a customer's travel decisions from, wherever they were thinking of to another place, because our customers are very price driven and they're deal driven. And so these things really move the needle in terms of customer behavior for us. You'll also see an example of a raffle, right? And so, people can earn raffle tickets by sharing on Instagram and things like that. And so a lot of this is just incentivizing behavior in terms of getting customers to share organically, getting customers to come back. Like we're introducing the idea of streaks, right? So every single day that you come back within the app and take a certain action, you earn a streak, which then translates into Carrot Cash, which is again our rewards system, where you can redeem that Carrot Cash towards travel. So, these are just some of the examples that we have at our disposal to get new customers to engage for the first time, to get customers to share with their friends, and to be able to influence what customers book and when, right? And so, as a result of all these gamification elements, we have incredible loyalty within the app, right? The open rate for the Hopper app is twice as high for people that engage with our social commerce content as those who don't. So that results in people launching the app multiple times a week, right? So rather than a customer coming to the app, once a quarter to book their trip, they're coming all the time and they're seeing these deals, and then they're potentially saying, hey, maybe I will go to Miami this weekend because there's a deal. Maybe I will go and take that trip to Vegas because I see a deal, right? And over the past 12 months, we've seen customers redeem over $50 million in Carrot Cash rewards, right? These are all things that we're funding on behalf of our partners as well, and oftentimes, sometimes in partnership with our partners to, essentially, instead of spending that on marketing and giving that money to Google or giving that money to Facebook, we're giving that money back to our customer, right? And so, what happens then is that customer has this fun, rewarding, engaging experience. They know that then coming to Hopper is going to be the best place and the cheapest place to book their travel because they're getting these rewards. And, for us, that's great because, rather than having to pay a ton of money to compete with companies, other OTAs to try to win that customer at the exact time of booking, we have that customer now organically coming to us to play games, right? So, I think that's really what's unique about what Hopper is doing in the space, and something that no other OTA is really thinking through, right? I mean, our core audience right now, like I said earlier, primarily Gen Z and millennials. 70% of our customers who book within the app are under the age of 25. So we really can say, hey, we own the customer of the future in a way that no other OTA does, right? Our competitors, I would say, are probably, trying to harvest the previous customer who are, slowly churning, and at any point in time, and we recently, had a talk about at another conference about, what happens in today's economic environment with stagflation, right? And what happens is our customer segment actually expands, right? So whereas we previously are focused on this, more price sensitive Gen Z millennial customer, in a period of time where, you have stagflation, companies like Walmart end up winning repeatedly, right? And so we're seeing our customer base also expand into the middle class and people who traditionally spend more on travel. That's something that we expect to stay, and that trend to continue to happen over the next, year plus, right? And I think what's great then for our partners is that they can really take advantage of this. and have tools to help them gain market share, have tools to help them, shift share away from their other channels into a channel that's willing to co-invest with them in getting those bookings for them.
Thank you very much, Susan, and so much to unpick from that as well. So, so Luca, I mean, we sort of seen that Hopper's defined itself as something obviously as a travel agency, but it's also a financial services company, something that we're learning about and exploring on short-term rentals, particularly with your fintech products. So could you tell us exactly what it means to be a travel agent and a financial services company? How are you innovating in the space compared to other OTAs? A little bit as an extension to what Susan said.
Yeah. So on Hopper, like you can buy flights, hotels, cars, and homes. And on top of that, we sell risk-based products that we built ourselves, started a couple of years ago, again, starting from the customer obsession, which is like, again, the main thing that we look at Hopper for every team, for every vertical. So we started leveraging the trillions of data that we have, and we started building risk-based products that help customers lower anxiety. That's what we said, or just adding value throughout different steps of the process. We price ourselves, we underwrite the risk, we put them on the balance sheet. And so essentially those are products that we build ourselves, we sell ourselves, we know how to do. And those are available in the app, and they're also available to cloud partners. So when we just take our inventory and innovation and made it available to other partners, like for instance, Capital One. The goal of this product, as I said, is like to lower the anxiety and make sure that like we provide value to the customer with a delightful end-to-end experience that comes at a reasonable cost, right? And again, like, if you lower the price and lower the anxiety and you deliver the product in the right way, that's when you have a fantastic experience. That was a big driver of growth for us over the past 2 years. I believe that today we're roughly looking at 40% of our revenue from the marketplace coming from fintech products. I think is more in there, about even 70%. And the cool thing is that like almost, I believe half of our app customers do buy one or more fintech products. And once they buy one, they come and buy more. And that is also resulting in an average order value increase of about 10%. So you can start thinking about how that comes into play when you think about our own revenue and how eventually we can like adopt our strategy when it comes to like pricing the travel product as well. Some example of these products, if you're familiar with the app, you probably have seen them for flights and hotels, and hopefully soon for homes as well. The most known product is Price Freeze, where for a small upfront fee, you can freeze the price of a flight or for hotels and then go on and book it later when you made up your mind, or some people actually use it as a form of buy now, pay later. That's one of the biggest one for sure. But then we introduced more over the past year, cancel and change for any reasons. I think there's also like a bunch of products around disruption, not just like flight disruptions. I think there's also like a new one that we built called leave for any reasons, where you basically show up at a hotel and if something is wrong, you can just leave and Opera will take care of the rest. So it's easy to imagine like all of these products are generally launched to a small set of customers. That's how we do things at Hopper. We experiment with like very small audiences, small markets, like smoke tests, like quick iterations, and then we scale them up. At the beginning, we lose a lot of money and we learn a lot of things. And then as they scale, they become big revenue drivers. And so why does that matter for the conversation today? You can see some of these products really like being game changing in the vacation rental space. That's what we're at least like projecting in the future. And back to like, what's different about Hopper? How do we win? This is definitely one of the drivers. We know how to build, we know how to price, we know how to sell this product within the ecosystem. And again, we're not looking at just one purchase, but more like, the whole connected trip. And there's some that could make the difference in the vacation rental space. Imagine like, if we're able to nail, and I think it's going to take a few iterations, Hopper generated free cancellation rates. That solves one of the main points where like, compared to the hotel's counterpart, that's a probably easier experience. Cancellations are more flexible for the customers. And in short-term rentals, that's not always the case. So if we're able to just charge the customer an additional fee while keeping the same cash flow and policy for the property manager, everybody wins here. And so that's what we're working towards.
Thank you very much, Luca. We'll check in with one of your partners again, with Jay at Evolve, because in our pre-call, Jay, we were talking a little bit about how you're seeing these last-minute stays on the fall a little bit. So could you tell us how Hopper potentially has kind of filled the gap where these certain types of stays are now starting to dip?
Yeah, I'm sure for most of the property managers on the call that they've seen this over the last month or so, where the last minute bookings have definitely fallen off, especially if you're looking year over year over the last few months. We're going back to seasonality, which we haven't really experienced as an industry in a year and a half. So that seasonality is something that you are always looking for different ways to fill the gaps. When we were partnering with Hopper, everything that Susan and Luca just talked about, I think is what got us really excited. What we are seeing in a practical world today is we're seeing these shorter term bookings that are filling these gaps and filling calendar that are helpful to our owners, right? And that's really what we look for, is like, how can we fill those calendar gaps? So we see the short term like advantage. We also see in urban markets, Hopper absolutely crushes in urban markets, where I know for most PMs and probably everyone, the more you can move market share away from some of the bigger ones in the industry that are great at urban, the better it is. So like trying to just have a better balance of how that works in the urban destinations has been a great like follow up to everything that we're talking about of where Hopper is moving in the industry. So those have been like the two biggest trends that we've seen, and it's been a great way to kind of fill that in with something we didn't really expect out of the gate.
Thank you, Jay. We'll touch. There's a couple more things I want to ask you, but I just want to check with Jesse first, because we're talking there about urban markets as well. So it seems most relevant to ask you, Jesse. But from our conversations as well, you know, you said that Frontdesk is performing very strongly at the moment on Hopper. And you know, is there anything that you would attribute to this particular example, or you know, how do you think Hopper is helping you get these certain types of customer demographics?
Yeah, I think that things are starting to finally kick into gear. It takes a little bit of time to get the listings just right, to get start getting reviews on the listings, and they're starting to perform. I actually have a stat here I can share with you if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Confirm you can see my screen.
Yeah,
I have a stat here. Just okay. Just general, you know, we use sort of Frontdesk RevPAR as a proxy for the urban vacation rental segment. And I think this is probably a testament to why, you know, some of the Gen Z and travelers, what we're hearing from Hopper Homes, they tend to prefer vacation rentals over hotels. You know, the story we're seeing is very similar to that, where in the pandemic, and I think this has been said on practically every webinar in the space, but it bears repeating, people tried a homes product and it got sticky. They used it in the pandemic because they had to, and their doctor was recommending it. And now it's one of those products that once you try, you just don't want to go back. And especially millennials and Gen Z who grew up in the sort of Airbnb era, that was dominated. That was some of their first travel experiences, and you know, they didn't even have a chance to try hotels before they were coming of age, and said, "Why would I try that?" You know, what we call this is, I'll just page through this quick. We call this dynamic living. We think that kind of the way that people are traveling, living, working, and resting are now becoming even more ingrained and blurred lines between the two. People are looking for more unique boutique and authentic experiences. And they're looking for flexibility in how they live, how they work, and how they travel. It's a dynamic society we live in these days. I don't think I have to tell anybody that. And the way we travel is certainly following suit into that dynamic lifestyle. And so what we aim to do at Frontdesk is unlock that dynamic lifestyle anywhere, anytime, anywhere. And what Hopper Homes allows us to do is continue to offer that product to a wider swath of consumers.
And do you believe, I mean, that is exactly something we've been talking about across, I think, all of our 4 websites at IHM, and this blurring between the way we live, work, and travel Is this, are the values that you're talking about there something that you see being aligned with Hopper at the moment?
Yeah, for a lot of the same things Jay mentions, the helping fill the gap nights in the off season in some of the northern climate kind of cities that we operate in. But generally speaking, Hopper helps us be better property managers and deliver higher yield to our owners. Right, it's a two-sided marketplace, and if we're not bringing in top dollar for our homeowner, our property owners, in our case, multifamily Class A urban properties, then it's not going to be a long road to that listing being live. We don't own the inventory, we manage the inventory, and we have an opportunity to serve those owners, and we have to continue to prove ourselves year and year again. And those property managers who are not continuously looking at new channels and new ways to maximize yield and maximize RevPAR are going to get lapped by those that are looking at opportunities like Hopper and to increase that value.
Thank you very much, Jesse. A similar question back to Jay as well. How do you see Hopper playing into the long-term strategy that you're trying to implement, evolve? You're seeing this tremendous growth in the business at the moment. So how do you assess it?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have such a broad set of properties, over 750 different locations, that we have to make sure that we're optimizing for as many of our owners as possible. Always looking for the different audiences. So I think what was really interesting coming out of that is Evolve's vision is making vacation rental easy for everyone. I think what Susan kind of outlined is you now have these travelers that are really connected into this app, that for them, making it easy is being part of that journey, right? So for us, we see it as kind of combining and being the back half of that journey of taking what is in the virtual world into more of a physical world, right? So we're doing that through our customer service and that handoff between Hopper into the Evolve ecosystem. So it just allows for those audiences to feel more supported of like what they're doing and what they're engaging with every day is actually now part of their life. And Evolve and Hopper are part of those brands that can work together. So together, we think like those brands, as they get built up, can really partner well for all the guests that are out there.
Thank you, Jay. And this whole section really is about how Hopper's value proposition is unique and benefiting Hopper Homes partners. So we talk a lot about the partnerships, and I guess the communication is important within that as well. How do you feel that's helping you share better experiences for modern travelers, and whether that assumes to be millennials, Gen Z, etc.? How does that all come about?
Yeah, I think kind of just building this like interesting value for having like just a different experience, and pulling like just it's part of your life now and part of your ecosystem. So building on like what is the value that is being added to both the guest and owner side of it, right? Because it is a two-sided marketplace, at least in Evolve's world. So part of this is really like what are the values that are being pulled out for the Evolve business too. And part of it beyond all the guest side of this too is like for our owners, it's a complicated world to go figure out. As Jesse is pointing out, there's dozens of different distributors out there, and being able to simplify that world for them by putting their properties on Hopper and streamlining it, I think really pulls us in a much better spot where like it would be hard as an owner that has maybe owned your property for 30, 40 years to think so uniquely different as how Hopper does. So I think putting Evolve in the middle of that and helping build this relationship has really created like this different environment that we can move forward and be part of the innovation through fintech and how that looks like, what that looks like with VR. I think that will be an exciting addition since not very few people have done it and at least done it successfully. So we're excited to see where it goes from here.
Thank you very much, Jay. You make some really relevant points there. We are seeing a lot of OTA competition out there, so the need to distinguish ourselves and what Hopper is doing as well on the travel agency and the financial services aspect is also very interesting. Luca, I know you're working with a number of property managers, and I know you can't exactly say all of them here, but you know, are you figuring out how are you figuring out things as you go along? Is it a continual learning progress? Are you kind of aligning the inventory you're getting with the guests that you've got in mind as well?
Yeah, that's a great question, and like one of the things that is top of mind for our team in this like launch phase. It's definitely not easy to figure things out. There's many layers of complexity if you think about it. First is like where you go, then like what type of properties you need to get, the integrations that you need to prioritize to support that, and then like after it all, figuring out how to make sure that they sell, right? So I think like what I think sets us apart is that, again, we have an extremely data-driven, product-driven approach. And so even before launching, actually, we started asking ourselves those questions based on like everyone's previous learnings and based on like the learnings from other verticals as well. Like, you know, where do we go? What do we get? And the first and most important thing was figuring out like, where do we get our supply? And so, you know, we had people like even very large property managers coming to us and like offering their like few like thousands of units in places that maybe like we weren't able to deliver on day one. And so we started having a very data-driven approach. We look at data from flights and from the hotel business. And then we were also fortunate to be able to switch on the inventory we have from third party ahead of like building those partnerships. That really helped us understanding what are the markets where if we go and spend time and hire people, we'll deliver an ROI that is meaningful for both ourselves and the partner, right? We don't want to be in a position that like we ask people to go through an onboarding process, we sell the word, and then we don't produce. So after that, I think like the first iteration was like really understanding, okay, these are the markets that we need to go and do most of our efforts. And the demand is extremely fragmented. I can't remember the stat, but I think like the first 100 markets make like 60% of demand or something like that, which means that like, you know, there's business for everyone, but obviously when you need to prioritize, that's where you spend when the biggest bang for your buck is. And that was the same when actually within the market, we needed to evaluate what type of inventory would convert the most. And here we'll maybe layer in like some other considerations from our own customers or using AirDNA to make sure that we get the right price point, the right location, the right amenities and things like that. This is a process that, by the way, as you mentioned, Paul, like it's happening, I'm not going to say weekly because that's a bit too much, but definitely monthly, right? We look at that list and we're like, are we actually going where our customers want, with the customer in mind first? There's no point like just going and add a bunch of inventory just because people want to be an opera and then the customers don't want it yet. And the property managers aren't happy. Obviously, all of this will change for a bunch of reasons. Again, we launched Capital One. That's a different set of customers, different set of use cases. Our business in international was about, I think 5% like last year, and now it's 20%. So, you know, like it's still like majority US, but you can see that changing very often, which means like new territories will be added, cross-border international travel, longer stays, like, you know, more mature customers and all of that. But we believe again in being customer obsessed, and that's like the first point. And I think like overall, my biggest learning after a year at Hopper is that this culture of experimenting and testing is like really the best thing that we can do to like successfully like run those tests, gather learnings, understand what we need to do, and then like be even faster in building that after. So again, whether it's a small feature or a big launch, we make sure to have that approach so that, you know, you gather the learnings and then like you're very fast in executing that strategy, if you see what I mean. Otherwise, like you might go and think like, well, the market says that it's important to go to EMEA, and then like you figure out after a year that was the wrong strategy. You should have deployed your resources and capital somewhere else. So that's how we're thinking about it today.
Thank you very much, Luca. And by extension to that, Susan, how do you see, we've just heard there, Luca explained very articulately about Hopper Homes and its goals as well, but how do you see Hopper Homes evolving in both an immediate and a long-term future?
Yeah, so I think in the immediate future, it's really about getting the inventory that our customers want, right, and partnering with the right suppliers to find the properties at the right price point and the right locations, right? That's marketplace driver number one is supply. The next part of this is really building the best customer experience and building out feature parity with all of our competitive set. One of the benefits of Hopper is that we moved very quickly. We launched our Homes MVP after 4 months of development, which is probably the fastest anybody's maybe ever gotten a vacation homes booking product to market. But we did that so that we could very quickly learn what our customers wanted to engage with and what was important to them. But there's certainly a lot of gaps to close on the feature side of being able to search by specific amenities, things like that. So I'd say that's the more immediate feature. More long term, I think it's really about introducing category first innovations to this space. We've done that already with the introduction of Carrot Cash Earn on homes products. So within Hopper Homes, we're actually the first OTA or the first place that will allow you to earn Carrot Cash back on booking a vacation home rental. Right. So thinking about, well, what are these other types of innovations that add value to customers, build loyalty that, we can add to the marketplace. Right. So, that goes with some of what Luca was talking about earlier around our fintech products, around pricing our own free cancellation rates, around taking our hotels product, leave for any reason, travel insurance, which basically allows you to say, hey, I've checked into my hotel. I decided I hated it. We'll let you rebook in the Hopper app instantly across, any hotel in the same star category, right? We can see that being also a healthy hedging product, a helpful hedging product for anybody who, potentially on the Capital One side, eventually, more conservative, older customer wants a more guarantee around what they're going to get. And we can see that potentially being a popular product there. So that's really how we're thinking about it. How can we introduce category first innovations that our customers really want and add value to their lives?
And that category first innovation, the talk about flexible cancellation policies where there aren't traditionally those policies, I thought was a really good takeaway from what your CEO Frederick was saying at Skift recently. I want to come to probably like the main reason that we're here for, basically, and talking about why people should be working with Hopper right from launch. So Susan, as you're here, what do you think actually distinguishes Hopper from the competition? Why should people be adopting Hopper right now, basically?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is everything that we said earlier around, accessing this, unique customer base that's younger, the ability to grow with them over time, being able to access, not just one, but two closed user book groups that are very sizable and large. And I think the other aspect of it too is that we're growing very quickly, right? We were the #1 most downloaded travel app in North America last year, ahead of Airbnb, ahead of Expedia, ahead of Booking.com. We're on track to double the amount of downloads this year, right? In addition to all of that, I think the benefit of partnering early with us is that, you can help us impact our roadmap. We worked with Evolve on this too. Integrating the ability to pay for pet fees was not something that was on our near-term roadmap, but it was important to Evolve, in that, 10 to 15% or so of their bookings had a pet fee attached. And so we built that, right? And we made sure that we would have that ability, pretty quickly after launching with them. So I think that's the benefit of partnering with us early, is that we actually listen. We want to be a great partner. We're not just here, like we said, to just, have a relationship that's purely transactional, but, we know also that we're new to the industry. And we want to be a better partner to, the property managers here than what maybe they've been seeing or getting from the existing players.
And thank you very much for that, Susan. Jesse, similar question to you as a partner. What would you say to other property managers considering joining, particularly given your own experience with Hopper?
Yeah, I would say they do what they say, right? They're customer obsessed, and obviously the big focus is on the consumer, but I think they extend that to the property managers as well. We're a needy batch of people, and they have been very flexible and adaptive to the needs of the property manager, and consumers are responding to that customer obsession. Just like short-term rental, home rental, vacation rental companies eliminated the front desk with the self check-in to strip away anything that's unnecessary and focus value directly on the experience. Hopper has done the same with stripping away that Facebook and Google ad cost that puts the money in the wallets of the consumers, and that's something we can get behind.
Thank you, Jesse. And finally, quickly, Luca, if you could give us just a very brief, why does it make sense for property managers to be joining now?
Yeah, look, on top of what Susan said, like again, like back to the example we mentioned a few times in this webinar, like Jay and his team and our team were talking like weekly, right? And we were like defining things that we didn't even talk about. That adds value to many, I'd say. And in that case, I think there's no better time to join. But additionally, like on top of that, like if like the involvement that someone wants to have is like, you know, different and mostly focused on performance, like I think joining early is always an edge over the competition. You will learn faster, you will adopt some strategies faster. You would also like, you know, improve your ranking, performance, visibility for the future. Obviously, like you shouldn't expect that a new channel will deliver as much as the others. But if the strategy is again, like what's going to happen if in the next 10 years, then I think like that will be a no-brainer. And that's why, like, you know, the reaction from the market has been extremely positive.
Thank you very much.
The other thing that I say, actually, you have to make it easy. You have to make it easy. If it's not easy, people will not do it. And so we invested a lot on the infrastructure behind it when it comes to like, you know, integrations, API, and building connections with channel managers, property managers, softwares. Like we invested a lot on that. Lots of like incredibly talented engineers, product managers, making this top priority from day one. Because otherwise, if the process is complex, the ROI might not be there. And that's one of the things that we invested in from the early days.
Thank you very much, Luca. What a point to end on there. So if any of our attendees today want to unpick Carrot Cash, Bunnies, fintech, social commerce, you know where to come to speak to our panelists today. Thank you very much to Susan, to Luca, to Jesse, and to Jay for all of your contributions. I'm sure we could have talked a lot longer on this. I'm led to believe that we now have the video to show with sound, so hopefully we can get that on screen for you now.
Travel can be stressful. You spend hours searching for flights and hotels, trying to find the best price. And you can get easily overwhelmed. Leave it to the last minute, paying far more than you expected. You get there, but it's hard work and expensive. Or maybe you don't even go at all. Travel can be easier. Hopper is easier. Hopper can show you the cheapest days to fly to hundreds of destinations around the world. We let you know when to book and when to wait, predicting future prices with 95% accuracy. Who knows? We might even find somewhere you never knew you wanted to go. When you watch a trip, Hopper will monitor prices and do the work for you, allowing you to spend more time on the important things. Our bunnies work behind the scenes, finding you the best possible prices. And with savings up to 40%, you'll actually have money left over to spend. Hopper will never let you miss a flight deal, sending you a notification instantly when prices drop, recommending you to book now, or maybe just wait a little longer. It's that easy. Hopper is a fast, safe, and easier way to book on your phone. You can book flights and hotels securely, directly in the app, with just a few taps and a swipe. Also, there are no cheeky hidden fees. The fare bearer is on the case. Hopper has helped over 30 million travelers track prices and book trips around the world. And we have the best 24/7 customer support team, made up of actual real bunnies. Sorry, real humans. No ads, no spam, no stress. Just accurate predictions and travel deals. So relax. Booking travel just got easy. Oh, and it's free. That's Hopper.
So I think that's a very good summation of everything that we've talked about today. And there will be an opportunity as well to connect further with all of our speakers very shortly. We've just got a couple of slides I want to run through quickly before we finish. We're back next Tuesday, the 11th of October at 4 p.m. BST for our next Rockstar session on the Price is Right, investment trends in the short-term rental sector. You can sign up now in the chat or by scanning the QR code on your screen now. For opportunities to work with us, please do contact my colleague Katie, whose details are on screen for you now. Big thank you again to Hopper, particularly to Luca, to Susan, also Ellie tuning in today for all of your help and support putting this together. Very grateful for that. We're going to keep the session open for another 2 minutes if you want to connect with any of our speakers today, particularly if your property manager's wanting to do that, or speak to Jay at Evolve or Jesse at Frontdesk, who've partnered with Hopper. If you want to jot down any details from the chat or connect with our speakers, please do that there. Do contact us via our various channels. Big thank you once again to our speakers and everyone who tuned in today. We'll see you all very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.